this is going to ruffle some feathers. Good afternoon, you wee bastards. This is going to be a follow-up video to my recent flump of a video on the AMX-40 where I called the thing a disappointment. Lo and behold, a mere 10 minutes after I uploaded the video, Gaijin released information that the tank's APFSDS shell would be getting buffed from less than 400mm of penetration to a full 550mm, and all of a sudden what I'd said in that video was rendered completely obsolete. I thought about simply removing the video entirely, but I decided I'd rather do it this way, so I do hope everyone who did see that and disagreed with it comes to see this one too. So when I first uploaded the video on the AMX-40 dev blog, I had only information from the first iteration of the dev server to go off. In that display, the vehicle was less than thrilling, with decent mobility but next to no armor and a very lackluster gun, or more specifically, a very lackluster APFSDS shell. Now, the heat shell is a decent one with 600mm of penetration, but at anything above 9.0 where this tank was placed, it won't be able to penetrate a thing. Not frontally, at least. I was honestly puzzled by the apparent hate the video was receiving up until I read the third comment and found out that the sub 400mm penetrating Sable shell had been buffed into the single best shell in the entire game. Yeah, just my luck with the timing on that one, eh? Unfortunately, as of the second dev server, where the footage you're seeing came from, that shell is a tier 4 upgrade. Yeah, look forward to your heat-only stock round at top tier, boys. Now, there were a lot of disparities between the first iteration of the dev server, the expected performance of the tank in-game, and the second iteration of the dev server, which we see now, and that led to a lot of false information. Now, I always said you can only trust dev server information so far. I did say that in the video, and I'm admitting, it turned out I was wrong. Now, of course, that information was only given later, just after I'd uploaded the video, unfortunately. But now let's go over everything that changed. So as of the first dev server, the Italy map didn't actually have proper resistances coded, so all the vehicles that drove on it were faster than they should be. Not only was the AMX-40 looking quite fast, but the Abrams, RU-251, the new German armoured car, if you saw the video I did with Ash, going around the new Italy map, all of these vehicles were much faster than they will be on the regular server, and they would be on other maps. So if you're getting your facts about the AMX-40's mobility from that map, which was the map I saw played 90% of the time, obviously Gaijin wanted to get it out there that the new map was in, it really was 90% of the matches you could play in random battles. They were all fought on that map. So if that's where you're getting your idea about the AMX-40's mobility from, I wouldn't completely trust that. Now, I didn't get to play any random battles matches in the second iteration of the dev server, so I'm not sure if that's been fixed. It may have been, but I would say the AMX-40's mobility was actually buffed a little between the first and second dev server. Its top speed remains the same, and it was always good. And its mobility, as far as acceleration and maneuverability goes, was good as well. It's now slightly better. Now, what you've got to understand is that not only are we getting tanks like the XM1 at 9.0 and a couple of other tanks around that battle rating, the XM803 for example, as well as tanks like the Leopard 2A4 Type 90, and we've still got the Abrams up at 9.7. 9.0 isn't the top tier anymore. So you've got to understand that not even if the AMX-40 had been a good 9.0 tank, would it have been a good tank overall, because everyone's going to want to play their Leopard 2A4 Type 90, everyone's still going to be jumping in the Abrams of course. You'll never avoid these matches. Now, as of the first dev server, with less than 400mm of penetration, you would not have been able to touch the Leopard 2A4 M1 Abrams or Type 90. Maybe the Type 90 you could penetrate with that shell. From close range, at least. The MBT-70, T-64A, T-64B, these tanks all would have proved a bit of trouble for that shell to contend with. Now it's getting the best shell in the entire game. All of a sudden, yeah, it's a glass cannon. It may not have armor, actually it only has 130mm. The armor was nerfed between the first and second dev server, whilst on this first iteration of the dev server it had composite armor good for 300 and something millimeters of kinetic energy protection. It now has 130 and the composite armor has been removed and replaced with spaced armor. So it truly is a glass cannon. Now, at least that cannon will have the ability to decimate anything in the game, and it is actually able to punch straight through the angled upper front plate of the T-64BV without much issue. Yeah, this thing is bloody powerful. APFSDS also got improved spalling damage in this update, so you won't even have to worry about over-penetrating the Leopard 2K. So now the tank, despite not having armor, I know armor isn't the meta of top tier. Somebody asked whether I actually play top tier and understand that armor, unlike at lower tiers, just is not part of the top tier meta, and I do understand that, but this tank takes that to a whole nother level. It is seriously low. And whilst people might say that the Leopard 2K is even lower, German players who were begging for quote-unquote an armoured Leopard to be added to top tier, the Leopard 2K does have armour. It has angled armour. See, these same players will tell you that the Tiger 1 doesn't have much armour because the armour is flat, and that the T-34 has a lot of armour not because it's that thick, but because it's very angled. See, the Leopard 2K has very effective armour. It might not rely on thickness, but it does rely on angling. So I think the Leopard 2K is quote-unquote more heavily armoured than this tank because of the effectiveness of angled penetration. The tank does have significantly low armour, even at top tier where armour is not part of the meta. So I do understand all that, but despite not having armour, having the weakest armour of top tier, and having decent mobility, which does feel like it was buffed slightly, with that cannon it will have a very, very good time at 9.0. You get a down tier, it will shatter everything you come across. When you get up tiers, and you will, it will still be good. Honestly, the tank just needs perhaps a 1 second quicker reload, 1.5 seconds quicker, and slightly more of a buff to its acceleration, slightly, and it would honestly be a very good 9.3. Now, what I meant about the tank being a disappointment was not just that it wouldn't be good at 9.0, because even the way it was, it would have been decent. It wouldn't have been great, it wouldn't have been taking over from the XM1 or the Leopard 2K. I still don't think it will take over the Leopard 2K spot as the top 9.0. It wouldn't have been taking over from the T-64A either, but it would have been usable. I reckon it probably would have been better than the MBT KPZ-70 even. But like I said before, 9.0 just isn't the top anymore, which means that France still wasn't getting a top tier. Now, when the Type 74 was at 8.7 and that was all Japan had, well it is currently, and the AMX-40 B2 was all France had before the Brennus was added, the B2 was 8.7, the T55A being at 8.7 along with the M60 Rise, and everyone complained that 8.7s had no way of playing the game anymore. With 9.0 tanks in the game, which you could never avoid the up tiers to, there was no 8.7 meta. 8.7s were just cannon fodder for 9.0s. 9.0s will now just be cannon fodder for 9.7s. And that's what the AMX-40 is. It's a 9.0 that's going to get dragged into constant 9.7 battles against tanks that it is not on par with. Now, with the best penetrating shell in the game, I'm still hoping that the Leopard 2A4 will receive DM33 shell with the, I believe it's honestly the same levels of penetration. I know Germany and France have worked together on main battle tanks in the past, and are currently doing so, I believe. So I wonder if it is the same shell or a license-built copy of that shell. I'm not sure about the gun. It could be a license-built L44. I don't think so. I know it's a little bit longer. But it does happen to have the same reload as the Leopard 2K at the same battle rating. The mobility is good, but the acceleration was the problem. It felt a little bit heavy. It felt a little bit like it didn't want to accelerate to top speed. Now, like I said, it's performing pretty well, reaching well over 50 kilometers an hour off-road, and this is in maps that aren't the Italy map without its proper resistance values coded yet. I'd assume that would be fixed. Surely it must be. All in all, the tank has gone from something that looked disappointing to me at 9.0, let alone uptiered to 9.7, to something that will easily be 9.3 worthy. However, even still, I'm not thinking it's going to be exceptional, because 9.3s will just be the 8.7s of the old meta, dragged into battles with up-tiered tanks. Now, funnily enough, the Leopard 2K is actually doing the best of any of the top 4 MBTs in the game, the T64B, Abrams, Challenger, and Leopard 2K. It's the Kyler that is doing the best. And you might say, well, it's not a top tier tank that gets constantly dragged into top tier matchmaking, and the thing is, it can avoid that. I see countless numbers of them in my T62 at 8.0, so I dread to think how much of a difference that battle rating squeeze is going to be. Power creep is really going to be what kills the AMX-40, however, with such a powerful gun, it will perform well for the time being. Originally, when I made my last video, it didn't have that powerful gun, or it didn't have that powerful shell, and that's where most of my incorrect information and incorrect judgment is coming from. Another reason I don't think it's going to be all that fantastic is that the Leopard 2K is a highly specialized vehicle. It really specializes in one thing in particular. It's just about a light tank, like the World War II meta of lights, mediums, heavies, and tank destroyers. I'm actually going to release another video in the next couple of days talking about the meta of the current top 4 MBTs, because it's very interesting. They almost don't function as MBTs. But the AMX-40 is not a highly specialized vehicle. It's an all-rounder, and whilst the Abrams is an all-rounder at 9.7, an all-rounder at 9.7 is always going to be better than an all-rounder at 9.0. The Leopard 2K is a highly specialized 9.0 facing an all-rounder at 9.7. It has a way to compete. The T64B is a highly specialized 9.3 facing 9.7s. It can compete, although it doesn't do so well. But that's not what the AMX-40 is. So that's just one more thing to take into consideration. One thing I completely forgot to mention, however, which I definitely should have given this tank credit for originally, let alone now, is that it has a hell of a lineup. Now, none of these tanks are actually on par with the thing, but goddamn, you have some really powerful backup vehicles to use here. With the AMX-40 as your primary, and definitely among the best 9.0s in the game currently, you also have the AMX-30 B2 Brennus as your immediate backup, the AMX-30 DC-8, a very good 8.0 radar AA, AMX-13 Hot as your scout tank / ATGM launcher, the Mysteri 2C and Voltor 2A as your close air support, some exceptional close air support vehicles there, and the older AMX-30B2 and AMX-50 Surbase if you want some a little bit less viable but still quite trolly tanks to use at top tier. They are still definitely capable of doing some damage, especially if you're being spawn camped and you spawn in an AMX-50. That thing has a ridiculously quick reload for a 120mm AP shooting cannon and has an insane amount of penetration and will definitely be capable of dealing some hurt to tanks that are spawn camping you if you happen to need that many spawns. Now, I doubt anyone will be spawning in that many vehicles if they've taken out the AMX-40 as their primary, but like I said, the AMX-40 is looking like it will definitely be competitive now. I know a lot of people were quite upset with the video I made, and I want to put your mind at rest. I do have the experience to know what I'm talking about. People said that I might not know that armor isn't the meta of top tier, I might not play top tier and might not have the knowledge to be saying these things. I do, don't worry. I play the Abrams, I play the T64, I've played top tier for a while, I know the meta, I understand what I'm talking about. And if I ever do make mistakes, and as I said, you can only trust the dev server so far, but if I ever do release a video that has significant mistakes in it, I will always correct them. The last time this kind of reaction happened to one of my videos, it was on my devblog content video on the T64B, where I said it would be a joke in comparison to the M1 Abrams. Now, a lot of people got pretty salty at that, with comments saying that I was a dumbass, I had no idea what I was talking about, I clearly shouldn't even be making videos on this topic because I clearly had absolutely no idea about these tanks, had no idea what the T64B was, how it functioned. The Abrams was crap, people were telling me. The Abrams would automatically not perform so well in War Thunder because in real life it was trash. I legitimately had a comment saying that. People dished out so much hatred when I said that the T-64B would not be good enough to stand up to the legendary M1 Abrams. Someone actually said I was an American fanboy, and I believe one comment called me an Abrams fag. That was legitimately the comments I got. Now, I don't care. I don't care about those reactions, but what happened? You just tell me what happened. When the T-64B and Abrams were introduced, the Abrams was absolutely shattering Russian teams full of T-64As and Bs. It was undefeatable, and still to this day, and for the next couple of days before 1.79's introduction, it is the king of the game, and it's awful to go against. You really can't fight a full team of that thing, especially if players know what they're doing. So when my AMX-40 video got a lot of flack, I was instantly thinking it's going to be that all over again. So if anybody who commented on that AMX-40 video thought I was being unnecessarily harsh in my replies, that's mainly the reason why. I thought it was going to be a case of the T-64B video all over again, where everybody was going ahead and correcting me, and then, well, I'm not going to brag, but who turned out to be right? Don't get me wrong, I love being corrected. Every time someone does correct me on information that I've given in a video, I will of course make sure I go and justify that information, make sure I go and validate that information, think predominantly, who's misinformed here? Is it me or is it them? Have I just made a poor judgment call? What's going on? Why have I got this information wrong? And then when I am corrected, I love it. I always like responding to people, thank you for the information that I didn't have prior to this. I'm glad you gave it to me. So, people who did correct me on my AMX-40 video, I'm glad you did. And now that I've admitted that the information I gave was outdated for one, and it should be a very good tag, my judgment call ended up being quite illegitimate, I hope people can forgive the incorrectness of that statement. Now that I understand exactly what this shell is like, it's definitely going to be much better than I anticipated at first, and I'm sure better than a lot of people anticipated at first. If it had only less than 400mm of penetration at 9.0 being updated to 9.7, I would dread playing the thing. But now that it's got an insane shell, admittedly you have to get to your tier 4 upgrade first, and that's going to take you 100 matches with only heat to deal with at top tier. But once you have that shell unlocked, it will definitely be a top tier contender. I think it honestly could go to 9.3, I hope it does receive a slightly quicker reload, slightly quicker acceleration, and then go to 9.3, it could withstand that now. It really needs that APFSDS shell stock if that is to be the case, but I think if that were the way it was done, it really could be a good 9.3. Hell, with a shell like that, and good acceleration and better reloading rate, it could be 9.7, it doesn't need the armor. It is definitely a glass cannon. I'm really surprised at the lack of armor the thing has, but with the new armor viewer, we may be able to see exactly how we can bounce shells in that thing. Anyway, that's just about all I wanted to say in this video. I hope you have enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, as there'll be new content out on my channel every single day. Make sure you leave your comments down below. Let's get a discussion going in regards to my last video on the AMX-40 and this one correcting. I hope everything I said there. Come follow me over on Twitch, Twitter, Discord, and all the rest, links below, and as always, I shall see you lads next video. Our review is great for displaying the effective thickness of more simple plating like the rolled homogeneous armor on World War II vehicles, but with the effective thickness of composite armor being displayed in the X-ray view, things could get a little confusing, especially when trying to work out the angle thickness, raw thickness, and effectiveness versus kinetic or chemical munitions. Add to that the fact that War Thunder has in place a multiplier for these listed stats depending on the material used in its composition, and you get some pretty hard to follow numbers. According to stats listed in game, the Chieftain Mark III's 120mm